medical marijuana and marijuana reform in Michigan.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
Alrighty, we have launched. Welcome, everybody. Planet Green Trees, episode number 552. I'm Michael Komorn, your host of Komorn Law PLLC. And today's date is March the 10th, year 2022. And we've got a great show planned for you tonight. It's surrounded by a lot of very funny, talented people that are going to be contributing to all of that. I guess we're calling the show Endemic next. But I don't know. That'll be explained later. Very excited to say that in the studio we have with a very special guest, Detroit's own T Money Green. We're going to get to him in a minute, and very excited to have him here. I got a lot to say and a lot of questions I'm going to ask him. I understand he's submitted to a cross-examination. We're going to go through a lot of that.
No problem.
And but we are going to attempt to get at a couple topics here. Those being brand new bill introduced in Michigan that would remove marijuana from the scheduling of Schedule 1 drug category. A lot to talk about there. A study, frequent cannabis consumers exhibit short-term changes in psychomotor performance following marijuana ingestion. Not true. Study published. We have to address some of these ill-fated, unfactually supported studies.
Well, if a study's done, then isn't it true?
And remediation, House Bill 5512, and new information regarding that. And as I said, we've got a special rare interview with Detroit's own T Money Green. And as we go around the room, let's make sure, first of all, we do have the one and only T Money Green, who is joining us tonight, as he's a well-known, internationally renowned musician, American bass player, record producer, and award-winning songwriter. Well known for his work with Death Row Records, Dr. Dre, George Clinton, Five Special, Snoop Dogg, The Dramatics, Tupac, and Warren G. And of course, Roadwork, which is his current project, and a band that rocked the house at the Cannajam 1. And I understand they're locked in for Cannajam 2. But without just the surface, just the tip of the iceberg of what we're getting into tonight, please welcome the one and only T Money Green.
Komorn Law. You know, I did that commercial for you guys.
I know. It's awesome. I
want to do more.
All right.
Komorn Law. I've been practicing the voice.
All right. Love it.
And moving around the room, we've got Steve Miller of Komorn Law. Of course, Steve is the rover here, all things that need to get done. And, of course, got a tremendous catalog of music from the 70s. Please welcome Steve Miller.
Well, thank you. Good to be here. Very excited for tonight's show with T Money Green.
Komorn Law.
Yes, sir.
And moving around the room here, a little out of position. I don't know if I recognize him over here. We have our dear friend Jim Powers of Michigan Parents for Compassion. Please welcome Jim Powers.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here and excited for the show tonight.
And almost as evidence of things getting back to normal, in the studio, we're happy that our dearest friend, Schuyler Engel, also known as the Federalist at times, is joining us. Schuyler, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate you for showing up.
You're welcome. It's good to see everyone.
He does what he can.
And what do you know? The greatest surprise of all is, look who's here. This guy right here. Dewey showed up out of nowhere. Love this guy.
Dewey. Everyone needs one.
It is... We got a lot. We got a lot. Yes, good to see. We got a lot of shared stories and wars that we've went through, and we got a lot to talk about. And of course, on the Zoom area, we have appearing with us Amanda Joslin of the brand Amanda Joslin. All things Amanda Joslin,
Crypto Queen,
NFT and YouTuber. And,
I've been called a lot of things. And, still got to get used to a couple of them. But
rolling with the punches.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah.
Please welcome
with the punches.
Amanda Joslin. Thanks for being here.
I am really excited that T Money Green is here because I have I have one of my favorites is Tupac, and secondarily, everybody that knows me knows Snoop Dogg is my all-time favorite. So it'd be really awesome to have the guy to ask some questions to.
Well, you got it.
We're going to ask some questions. The question is whether or not others are going to be able to ask questions. That's really the biggest challenge here. I'm just kidding. You know how I can be a conversational terrorist at times. I'm just going to admit that one of my. Just kidding. All right. And of course, we have joining us tonight the person who's oftentimes been described as being responsible for it all. Please welcome also 3D printer enthusiast, which is now being introduced, Jamie Lowell.
Hello. So, I don't think we do have a really great guest tonight, but if we get some time on 5512, I did speak with judges and lobbyists that are pushing it and have some more insight into their twisted thinking on why this is so important.
Let's do that in a moment. Dewey, always the gentleman, reminded me that for some reason I've passed over the team of well-established producers here, the Bunker Boys, Tommy, Dan, and Justin, who usually don't like to be recognized. But thanks for being here, guys. And if anything goes wrong, we'll know that we'll be blaming you guys. All right. So this is what we got. We got the topics. We got a whole interview here with T Money Green. But Jamie, to get some of these other important important issues addressed right now, let's talk about what you want to talk about. The introduction of the scheduling bill and the remediation 5512. I was talking. So, Jamie, you said if we have some time. I'm making time now to talk about what you want to talk about.
Clearing the calendar.
Go ahead, Jamie. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, if people remember 5512, this has to do with specialty courts. Started off being about the drug court in particular, and it would make changes to the law to
the conflict of law between the
Judiciary Act and the
MMA.
There's no conflict.
So, and it's actually I think 70 or something like that. But anyway, the point being, it would allow the specialty courts to allow people to use their marijuana and medical marijuana as they are saying is the reason. They can't now, they say, but this would at least allow them to do it. So anyway,
it's saying that could prevent them from doing it, and it makes their
pitch is that it allows them to do it, that they can't do it now, but this would at least allow them to do it on a limited basis, which is the problem. So what they actually believe, this is what I was told, was here's what we want to do. Because people are trying to gain on the system. That term was used a couple of times by this retired judge, the Honorable Judge Hoffman. I can't think of his first name right now. He's about 5 years retired from the drug courts, and he's obviously been hired as a consultant by the lobbyists to be a part of this, to help lobby. They want to, when somebody requests using their medical marijuana, if they have their card, they want to have a special hearing for that and make that person bring in their doctor. Huh. And decide whether or not, the condition is
they can play doctor.
Severe enough or significant enough so they can play doctor. And said, we don't want to play doctor, but the judges have to rule the court. The doctors shouldn't be the head of the criminal justice. I said, they're not. They're just acting as the doctors. That's all they're doing. You want to act as the doctors, and that's what's wrong with this. All you need to do is see the card. The card then explains that they've demonstrated a bona fide doctor-patient relationship, that they've been through the whole state-recognized process to use their medicine. If the concern is whether or not that's the case, then show them the card. And then they said, well, there are these mills that these doctors create, and there's all this stuff. Like I said, none of that stuff is relevant. I mean, if you actually have a good reason for a particular case to think that there is some problem with the process involved with getting their card, there are already mechanisms in place to take care of that. And you can make sure that those get put into motion, and then you can await the response. You don't have to do anything except for look at the card that demonstrates everything you need to know. And that means that we really should be codifying Michael's People versus Toohey case into law and make it so you cannot be rejected into voluntary courts because you're a medical marijuana patient. Now you can't be denied using your medicine if you're a medical marijuana patient. That would solve the problem. It would eliminate that extra layer of bureaucracy and an extra step and cost and burden, and keep the courts from being so antiquated. And of course, then we want to talk about how it could actually be used to help people under those circumstances with dangerous substances and that type of thing. But they're not budging on that. That's where the crux came down to be. They don't want to just look at the card. They need to bring the doctor and all this other bullshit in there. So,
in what other scenario would that be a reality, other than it's because it's marijuana?
You brought that up.
Judge Hoffman is retired. He's a district court judge, which, in the term that he was there, it seemed like he finished in 2016. So he was part of the court system that's been described as being the broken system that's designed to get money out of the litigants in order to pay for the court system. So he comes to the table now with experience on a failed system. I don't think he should be able to rely on it. Furthermore, the suggestion, Jamie, we had talked about this a little bit before, that for some reason, because there's so-called federal funding that would be cut off. That has never happened. And
no, and in fact, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. I did more research on that. The main organizations are BGA, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and then there's another one like AMSHA, which I don't remember what it all stands for. Both of them have their policy clearly available that can be read. They simply say that the money cannot be used to support anything with using medical marijuana. And ASMSHA actually says, like, it can't be used to prescribe it, obviously showing how complex this issue is and how wrong even these, judiciary institutions are, stuff like that, when they try to figure out what's going on with this stuff. But there was an attempt to be a little bit more strict, I guess, in 2019. It just caused too much conflict, and they very specifically loosened their restrictions.
At some point, the VA had a policy, and I can find it, that addressed the conflict that under federal law, marijuana is still Schedule 1, and that these VA drug courts are being federally funded. And what are you going to do if a VA is using medical cannabis? Well, the answer really relies on how the VA has treated medical cannabis patients and that they haven't interfered with them. If someone's at the VA and they go and get their medical records because they want to go get certified, they don't stop them.
No.
And that's really what we're asking. You don't have to endorse it. You don't have to agree with it. You're just not going to punish the person because that's the choice of medicine.
Shouldn't be contemplated at all.
But I'm just saying that the argument that federal funding would be cut off because of that is a falsity.
No.
And Jamie, I agree.
Okay, so the rep that set us up with this meeting had a big problem with that. She agreed with like everything we could possibly say. Everybody in this room practically would be agreed with by her on, thoughts on cannabis and how it should be. She said, but the drug courts are way too important, and if they get affected by not getting federal funding anymore, we can't afford that. So we have to, sacrifice these things if that's necessary. Which of course is weird on itself, in itself.
So what are our rights worth?
Here's the ironic thing, though. Here's the ironic thing. They are saying that they need to do this in order to let people use their medicine. So if the grants weren't coming because people are allowed to use medical marijuana, this would prohibit that money from coming in.
No.
Itself.
First of all, this is a joke because the legislation on its face that will change the dynamics at all. And what they're being asked to is to declare that the Judiciary Act, which gives the power over the drug courts, to not conflict with the MMMA by virtue of an amendment to the MMA, saying the MMA and any law that conflicts with it, that law will lose, except the Judiciary Act. So if they really had the authority to deny in these drug courts or VA court or what have you, then they wouldn't need to make this amendment. That is such nonsense.
Well, just point.
It's voluntary, but the person has to be accepted, and that's the reason why the judge thinks that all this can happen. And I said, just because the person has to be accepted and it's voluntary doesn't offer the ability for the judge to make those type of medical determinations.
First of all, the question is: are they doing the same with other prescription medications?
They are not generally. They say that they can, and they do sometimes. In fact, we even said, do you ban tobacco sometimes? And they go, and the judge goes, yes. And we said, really? You have done that? No, I've never done it. I just heard of it being done before.
Oh, that's the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever heard.
The whole thing was that they were so clueless. I even think some people supporting the bill have decent intentions, and think that they've been talking about something that sounds like it's a good idea. But
Jamie, I think
the problem that we have with cannabis in general.
There probably aren't any, I don't know, produced studies, but like there are the statistics that show the reduction in more harmful toxic medications, opioids in particular, reduction in suicides in states that have cannabis as a choice, right? The overdosing, all those. I mean, I don't know, those things. Harm reduction.
Yeah. So I sent in about 6 or 7 most recent articles / studies on cannabis as harm reduction for dangerous substances, along with a letter in opposition. So I mean, the committee has that, whether or not they care about it or review it or not. But I did send that information along.
All right. What else about this?
True.
What else about this?
Well, there's the second reading is March 25th in Judiciary. I believe that's a Tuesday, and we usually start at about 9-10 o'clock. So show up and do what we did with 5301. The fact that they're having the second reading makes me think that it's probably going to get voted out, and then we have to do what we do.
I should testify. I should take.
You should.
I don't know why I haven't been. It's like whoever that guy is from the district court that's retired. He's less of an expert than I am. It's my case.
That guy knows shit. He knows that the judges should be in control of everything and be able to make final determinations about everything, no matter what it is.
I would start the whole thing with if I was to present, I'd start with like, you guys are aware that the trial court funding report said that the district court program is broken. I mean, if that is with your drug courts, without your drug courts, it's broken. Anyways.
I said if the courts have that much power, then the fix in law needs to fix that. Not this other stuff. That's where the flaw is.
I can't believe that they're just still picking on patients at this point. I don't know. It's weird. The caregivers are in the fray, and now the. Anyways, all right. So what's the other issues? Is let's talk for 10 seconds. So we got
remediation.
T-Money. Okay, what about remediation?
Most people, most consumers, no matter what, whether or not there's actually any proven issue with it or not, want to know whether or not the process has happened to the product.
Let's take a poll. Anyone that smokes cannabis in this room, including those on the Amanda, who is an ingester of cannabis via any method, do you want to know or do you not want to know if your cannabis has been remediated?
I want to know.
I want
Absolutely.
Okay. Dewey, what do you want? What do you say?
And if it doesn't cause a problem, then what's the issue with sticking it on the fucking label then?
Yeah.
Consumers need more information, not less information. Being more transparent is a better idea.
Yeah.
I just figured that if you get that MRA stamp on it, you're good to go. They're not going to.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
That's the remediation bill. What about this other thing? I saw Yusuf Rabi's bill got introduced to remove cannabis from the scheduling. I saw an article where and
it's being nicknamed the Johnson-Clare Act. And, I want to say, too, right now, there's a lot of tribute to Komorn Law for bringing this issue out in the open and making a big deal about it and having a lawsuit with Johnson-Clare as a plaintiff, of course, with Josie Scoggin, and many people know, and there are others on it, too.
Medicaid.
And it died because of technicalities, not because of, the conflict that it was trying to resolve that still remains.
Right, we never got to the substantive issue of whether or not it's arbitrary and capricious to sell marijuana and get tax dollars and then still describe it in your code as Schedule 1, which would mean it's illicit. That has never been recognized.
I've been working with Rep. Robbie's office, and keeping in touch, obviously, with you, Michael, and Jeff quite a bit. And just trying to get it done legislatively. The Attorney General said she would support it legislatively, but would continue to work against it in the courts.
Do you think they'd consider giving it a pet name of the Komorn Law bill? Just kidding.
Had I thrown that in at the time, I kind of thought Sinclair was a little bit more fitting.
That's fine. All right. Fine. That's fine.
But finally, I worked on it for a long time, and then a couple people realized It is very complex for a lot of people. It seems really simple. It's a very straightforward, logical conflict that has one resolution, ultimately. But there's so much gobbledygook surrounding it that it was very difficult to get that through to some people. And it took a while. And finally, when a couple things clicked for enough people, that's when it started moving forward.
Well, the reason we lost that case would be because there was no theory that there was no standing, there was no immediate harm, that the MMA protected people, that the MMFLA protected people, and that the recreational stopped, and there's no evidence of any arrests or harm being taking place after the recreational law passed. And after it's passed, all that are in control will follow the law and not and acknowledge it, which is not the case. We've seen raids. There's still raids taking place in some instances.
Not getting their licenses, people getting their kids taken away, still getting charged felonies for small marijuana activity. I'll tell you one thing that's kind of ironic. While we were having an interview with the Attorney General about this was a year and a half ago now, and asking her, just don't defend it, let it win, and then that's what we want. And then we'll take it from there. And of course, she said, no, this my department client is too important, and that's not what they want to do, meaning the Board of Pharmacy, I guess, at that point. And that was be too much. But then they brought up how she was trying to hire somebody in to the Attorney General's office, but they used medical marijuana, so they wouldn't hire her in.
No, exactly. That point she mentioned was that, and then she joked that she didn't have to get drug tested for it because she's in charge, but everybody else did. And there's a really well-qualified young lawyer that wanted to work in her office for all of the reasons, was qualified and had cannabis in their system. She felt bad they had to not give him a job. Well, the only reason that you can't give him a job is because it's Schedule 1. All right, so that's
their State Department. That should be like the clear-cut home run type of an employer that couldn't discriminate against somebody for using medical marijuana.
Yeah, she could have followed Joe Biden, who I think took this. Oh, no, wait a second. He didn't. He actually fired everyone that was in the office as well. So it still remains, unfortunately. The evolution of this is not really...
it should have been challenged.
It is. It's... I mean, just the idea, Jamie, that we got to show up and protest about patients, having to be told by a doctor... by a judge, what kind of medicine to use, that's still going on, and 12, 14 years after the MMA pass is insane.
Well, because it's more about the fact that we're telling the judges that they can't do something, and they'll have none of that. You know that. Probation is a privilege, Michael.
And the number of folks that go through to get their cards that are on probation, there's quite a decent amount of them. So if they're anticipating trying to set up a whole new court for that, new proceeding, that's really going to put a kink in things for a lot of people. Not to mention the fact that any of the doctors that feel comfortable doing it right now are certainly not going to want to go to court over something like this. They'll just simply not do it.
Yeah.
What's the shortest break? 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
All right.
Well, there's a very good, nice, quick encapsulation of all those issues.
I agree. You did a very nice job, Jamie, and thanks for expressing those things. This is what I think we should do. We're going to take a quick break. Come back and get right into it with Team Money Green, who is loosening up on the bass, I hear. Serious bass being played over there.
The quickest.
So let's take a quick break and listen to Planet Green Trees episode number 552. We're calling it Team Money Green episode. We'll be right back.
The Planet Green Trees Show.
When you're charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. The police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine.
Planet Green Trees Show.
Join the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org. The MMMA is focused on the well-being and safety of medical marijuana patients. The MMMA site provides the most comprehensive and up-to-date news on legal issues, politics, research, cultivation, as well as the various strange products and methods of cannabis use. Come join the discussion with the most knowledgeable and passionate advocates in Michigan today. MichiganMedicalMarijuana.org.
An important and historical farm crop in American agriculture is returned after having been classified as a controlled substance and illegal. On December 20th, 2018, the President signed the Farm Bill, also known as the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, into law. The signing of the act was great news for the hemp industry, which amended the definition of marijuana in the Federal Controlled Substances Act. Hemp is now defined as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, and any part of the plant, growing or not, with less than 0.3% THC concentration on a dry basis. The plant itself is no longer a controlled substance. Hemp is one of the most versatile plants on earth. From clothing, fiber, paper, building materials, hempcrete, biofuels, CBD, and medical uses, it has been a part of America's industry for over 200 years. Even the United States Constitution was drafted on hemp paper. The time is now. If you're thinking of getting in the farming or processing of hemp, contact our global experts, legal, and consultation teams to make sure that you're on the right road when you venture into the new hemp industrial revolution. Michigan Hemp Industries has been a leader and advocate for the return of the hemp industry, so come be a part of the new revolution in agriculture in Michigan.
Charged with a crime, you need a real attorney. And here's just a few reasons why. police, the courts, the labs, the drug tests, probation, the judges, the jails, the prisons, and the entire system is just one big machine. They have one objective: take your freedom, take your possessions, take your money, take your children, control your life, and destroy your future. You only get one chance to hire the right attorney. One that will stay in your corner. One that will fight for your rights. One that will fight for your freedom. Choose an attorney that's experienced in fighting the justice machine. Attorney Michael Komorn. Knockout victories one case at a time. Komorn Law. Google it. komornlaw.com.
Bill Schuette led the charge against medical marijuana, and even after the will of the voters was decided and the support was enormous, he still continued to fight against the will of the voters, keeping patients from the medicine that they need. So I think it's important that we all speak up on what we think about this initiative. But when the voters have their say, their will must stand.
I am Earl from G3 Cannabis Therapy Network, and you are watching Planet Green Trees, the original and #1 podcast in Michigan for all things cannabis and legal news.
Here's Michael Komorn with more Planet Green Trees.
All right, we're officially back. Planet Green Trees, episode number 552. I'm your host, Michael Komorn. We're going to start the interview with T Money Green. As I said before, he's internationally renowned recording star, American bass player, is a record producer, and award-winning songwriter, well known for his work with Death Row Records, Dr. Dre, George Clinton, 5 Special, Snoop Dogg, the Dramatics, Tupac, and Warren G. All right. So, first of all, I want to start let's go back. You started playing bass when you're 14 years old. How did that come to be?
High school. I saw a guy at 1969 in a talent show at high school. I went to Mumford High School. And this guy was playing, man, and the bass was just ringing out. However, my stepfather is a world-renowned jazz bassist, but I never looked at him playing bass. And when I seen a guy a couple years older than me sounding good on bass, I wanted to do it. That's how that came about, for real.
You said it was your dad that was a...
Yeah, man, huge, man.
Like guitar?
No, well, he did, because he did some Motown stuff back then. Mm-hmm. But upright is what he's known for.
Okay.
And, I mean, really great, man. There used to be people in the basement like Esther Phillips, Gloria Lynn, Stunny Stitt, all these different people. What happened, he was like built in the Bakers. Yusuf Lateef, you know, because those musicians couldn't travel with a whole band. Mm-hmm. So they would get with the guys that can sight read right on sight. Just throw the music right out there and they read it like they've been doing it.
Right.
And my daddy had a crew of those kind of guys.
I see.
And they would hit him up all the time, man. And he worked my whole life, but we was taking the message, you know, you better give me my messages, no mess up, you know.
All right.
It's Earl Clue. Would you tell him we'll... You know, just those famous names came across. So,
do you like jazz?
I love jazz, but that didn't do it for me for bass, though.
Okay.
You know, because I was already on my way to loving Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
And, you know.
So this is 69, you're at Mumford, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, and...
talent show.
All right.
Kicking the bass, that's all I heard, man.
Okay. And you'd never heard it before like that?
Not like that. And my biological father was in Vietnam, so he was in Vietnam from start to finish. That particular month, on a Saturday, he would call, and I would go out to my stepmother's and wait for the call. And he would always end it with, "What you want?" Mm-hmm. And then one day I was like, "Daddy, the talent show, man, yesterday, I want a bass." I didn't think about it later that my stepfather, you know, there was probably a slap in his face, but he went on and gave me the, you know, he told my stepmother, get him a bass. So we got me a big old long bass that I couldn't even play, but it was fun learning how to play on it, you know. So that did it there, and 2 years later, I was very professional and making money.
Wow. So what kind of music were you listening to at the time? You said Hendrix a little bit?
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of Hendrix, Aerosmith, you know, everything that was coming on
That's a big music era. You know,
Yeah, when I came up, it was great music,
right,
all the way around. I mean, you like Led Zeppelin, you like
Beatles, and
yeah, I love the Beatles. I knew all the Beatles stuff.
Right.
You know, because when we moved, it was nothing but we had all my friends were Jewish. We were the only black family for a long time, right down the street from Marvin Gaye. Well, I mean, I watched him move in, but he was fun too. So this whole thing has been a great career for me, to just not find anything wrong with it. And I've probably been robbed out of a couple $1 million, but I don't really see that, because when you don't see it, you don't see it.
Right.
But you know it. And I mean, I know it clear. The music business has a way of clearing itself up, because I've gotten things cleared up just by waiting it out. So, you know, you can't always afford that lawyer to go in there and fight for you. He might lose, then you go back and, you know. So in the meantime, I stay very busy. It's just like the festivals you guys had. We had a ball for that, and we doing Hash Bash again this year.
I understand.
Yeah, you know. So
Adam Brooks Hash Bash will be. You guys playing Saturday? Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out for Adam Brooks. Let me say this. You must have had it in your genes or something, right? Because what you just described is not something that is normal, and your joy and you know, wise decision that you made looking back is not for everybody, right?
I think it was Motown. I think Motown, that was huge at that era.
Right.
And then you bringing in the Jackson 5 on us. You know, we'd even chase Jackson 5s at Metro Airport back then. The DJ would say, "Hey, boys and girls, your favorite Jacksons are coming to Metro Airport. Go down and see your favorite Jackson." And back then, you could go all the way to the plane, you know.
When they're coming off. Right.
As soon as they come off, man, we chasing them and snatching. You know, girls will have their hair. And, you know, just seeing that, and then seeing the Temptations and Diana Ross. And then across the street, the road manager for the Temptations moved in. They had a whole little area for Motown. And the road manager moved in, and we could go down there and see the actual clothing and see the microphone, that famous 5 microphone stand. So just seeing all that, I think, just jumped all in me, because I did pretty much take off on the bass really quick.
You practice every day? How do you get good?
I think I might have practiced every day in the beginning.
Yeah.
Barely practice now, man. You guys catching me rusty now, but it's just that, you know, it's like I'm not trying. I used to try so hard to be, and I just wanted to do that for my parents. You know, let them know you can have a kid that's doing something good. And I end up doing a lot of stuff, because, you know, I'm in the era where your parents would say, "I'll be glad when you grow up, get a job and help us pay this rent."
Right.
That's how the black family is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was to the point where they never said, "I want to see you put some of that money in a," you know, maybe if I could have been geared that way, it'd be a lot more monies. But I've been getting royalties for about 35 years.
That's great. That's great.
And the rap era really took it to another thing for me.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's so you start playing professionally at 16, you said 17?
14, 15. I was with the Dramatics by 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you formed Roadwork was formed in 71, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happened? So between 71 and the, you know, Death Row Records 1993.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
19 years with the Dramatics on the road.
Okay. So that's like as a
kid, 17 till 93.
Okay.
And I wrote a lot of songs for the Dramatics, and we traveled all around. That's where I got my whole claim to fame at. That Dr. Dre stuff, I did more for them in the long run than they did for me. I mean, I brought George Clinton, I brought the Dramatics. You know, I brought big names.
Sure.
That really helped Snoop's album just go to #1. He sold 11 million, while Dre sold 3 million on his album. So it just showed that there was a shift.
So what was it like on the road as a, you know, 19, 20, 23?
Man, I'm turned out. I was you know, by 19, I'm turned out, man. I done learned about groupies. I was one the girls didn't really look at much back in the day. But, man, coming off that stage, hey.
So how long were the tours for? You go for like, you know?
I mean, months, man. But I might, the Dramatics, sometime it'd be 3 months, 4 months, you on the road. You know, come home right quick, change, you know, get up everything, change the gear up and get on back out. One time we came all the way back off the road and they met us and was like, "You guys are supposed to be in Los Angeles in 2 days or something, man." Right back around, you know. So that all that is exciting. That I got a book coming that's finished, and way before it even got to Death Row was 20 years of the Dramatics, man.
No, I hear that.
I mean, that was the life right there, man.
So what other bands were like on the, you know, that you would run into? Like, who were
the Commodores, Isley Brothers, Confunction, Al Green. I mean, I'm on the shows with all these people, man.
Right. I would imagine.
And then, you know, the Isley Brothers, you would see, they would have Coliseum sold out. Well, they had us you would talk to a guy who you would think was the promoter, and he was really just fronting for the Isley Brothers. They were throwing their own concerts, and that was just way too smart because you just see people hanging from the rafters, you know what I mean?
Right.
They had that royalty type of money. I mean, you know, kings and queens type of money. They've been around a long time. You know, so those kind of people, Commodores were flawless. Way before Lionel Richie quit, they were just flawless, man.
Earth, Wind, and Fire?
No, not Earth, Wind, and Fire. Right. They were there, but I mean, just I guess a whole different.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think about. So what about
Temptations?
James Brown? Was he in that circuit?
No, but the Dramatics started with James Brown. He the first one that took them on the road to get their, you know, start, and he liked them, and they did good with him because it's a total opposite of what's getting ready to come out. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I like to book a show too. You know, opposites.
Okay.
You know, nobody's competing against each other.
Sure, they complement each other.
Yeah, compliment. Right.
And actually, there's some competition, maybe. Just
I mean, you got to get better. You know, he getting ready to come out and kick. You might as well do it. So, yeah. So the whole dramatic years, and then when I quit, I just had to quit, man, because we had went from real famous to like nothing really, man. You know, one show a month.
How did that way? What was this, like early 90s or late 80s?
Late 80s. Yeah, it was just getting too much. Just too much.
How would you
drugs.
define that? The music that we're talking about with the Dramatics, would you say it's?
I would say that's R&B, soul.
Okay.
Some poppy, you know.
Not on the funk side or less.
No, because they were just
Had a
opposite of that.
Side.
Yeah. Now, when I got with them, and then I was able to bring songs. There are 4 or 5, you know, up-tempo funky type songs, but that didn't work for the Dramatics. We immediately got to the lab and came up with a ballad.
Right.
Because that's what we were really known for, more ballads. Yeah.
So was it? So you went through that, like some disco-ish too, maybe?
Yeah, that the whole disco era. You calling the right shots, man. The whole disco era really had us wiped out.
Is that 4 beat? What is it? Some weird. There's a weird beat about that, right? They take.
you know, we just
something. It's not.
Put it like this: singers ain't gonna sing too much on those kind of beats.
Just wasn't there.
No, not for no balladeer guys that's doing routines and shit.
Right.
You know
what though? But whoever was hot then, everyone's got at least disco song on an album. You know, like the Stones, you know, they did like Shatter.
They came up with, you know.
There's always some, you know.
Yeah, Dramatics, we weren't that lucky, even though I did a few other songs, but they weren't as catchy. I think a big part of it was, I remember when me and Ron Banks first started. Ron Banks is the guy who had to ask my mother, could I go on the road? He was the leader of the Dramatics. And when he asked me one day, man, we need to know how to write songs, man, because I can do this album. And I was like, well, I can do the music. Can you do lyrics? He said, yeah. He should have said no, really. Because his lyrics not being catchy is why a lot of this stuff don't get done over. Because I hear a lot of songs, you know, everybody's doing Etta James now, or everybody's doing this. Yeah, well, songs that we wrote, his lyrics were really kind of just, you know, really shy to what was happening. But, we got paid for it.
I hear you. All right.
You know, I would have liked to really gotten paid, and the way you do that is to have, you know, stuff that people can sample. But I'm lucky because a lot of my instrumental stuff, you know, stuff like with George Clinton, that stuff is sampled by the rappers, man, huge.
And that's what you're saying. Like, so a lot of the success that comes to recording artists is that they first of all own the tapes or own the rights to them, and then can license the samples from the songs, right?
Yeah.
In addition to whatever royalties from the song being played wherever it is, they get.
Right, you get it. And, you know, now, thanks to the Funk Brothers starving to death and then finally getting a $2 million check when you're 92 years old, thanks to them, musicians do get paid now on those big records like that. And, I mean, why shouldn't we? Like, I'm Gin and Juice. all you know is the bass when you hear that song. You know what I mean? So Dr. Dre didn't say, hey, T, can you do dong, dong? No, he said, T, what you hear?
Right.
I mean, Robbie Robinson did the same thing. T, what you hear?
Right,
you know, let me hear. He just wanted
put your
more.
bass on here, right?
Right, you know. Hey, what I might have did was too many bass lines, and he got away with it, and he got bass lines now for the rest of his life. But that's cool too.
Because it's on his song.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
But I'm
yeah.
saying you're saying like the.
Yeah, because I'm on his song. Yeah.
But I'm saying you don't get the
writer's credit. I should have got writers.
Or on the clips that someone may use, right? Or the sample, if they sample like the bass line on Gin and Juice, it's not. You're not getting it.
I'm gonna get money for that now. Like I said, that's thanks to the Funk Brothers because they wasn't getting nothing on all them hit records they were pumping from Motown.
Okay.
So now they have it where musicians can actually. It's SAG-AFTRA and the Musicians Union has gotten together, and you can actually get your money for being the bass player on these songs and stuff. And I love looking and finding another song that I play bass on. And they don't really have a problem figuring out as me either, because I got just a distinguished style, and it's probably from playing upside down and backwards.
Is this a recent decision or a recent ruling that allowed claims to the rights and royalties on the songs?
This is new. Yeah, okay. This is all new stuff. Yeah.
And so someone must have you're literally going back and saying, well, where my
royalties for that,
which could have been 10, 15, 20
years ago. What's happening because you got Spotify and all these things are streaming your music. So now they have to find and say, hey, wait, that's Tony's. Oh, this Tony's. This Tony's here. Tony's over here. You know, and that's what I'm glad somebody else can do that because we didn't. And I'm gonna tell you, this particular era and style of how music is going, I hate it. I liked it when we can go press up some CDs, press up your vinyl, press your cassettes, sell them, have them, just happen to have some, give them away. I never knew how to sell my stuff. I always gave it away by accident. I had my kids was like, man, you better give me. They took some T-shirts from me one night and sold them all. I gave away about 8 of them. So, I just don't know how to do that, man.
Well, you raise a good point. It's always a question of like being a performer and seeing the evolution of music. Even the era of, that 90s era was weird too. Like, until it changed, like the change of music from the 70s to the 80s.
Yeah.
We had 80s music, and then the 80s to the 90s, completely different,
Yeah.
And, it's supply and demand to a certain degree, right? But, but some bands,
Some bands lasted through it.
Yeah.
But they were probably bands. When I got with Dr. Dre and just happened, and Snoop found out I knew the Dramatics. It was funny, he used to play the Dramatics all the time. And then he would get out the car and say, you don't know nothing about that, T. Green. And he'd walk on in the studio. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do I have to mention these fools, All
right, so how did you end up at this place? So so you were not touring a lot. 80,
no, we were through. I was touring in the 80s. I quit in '93.
Okay, just walked away.
Yeah, I quit in '93, and 4 months later, after the Dramatics said you'll come crawling back, I was Dre's musical director.
There you go.
Because I had David Ruffin Jr. and I was managing him, and he was young, and his dad had just died from overdose and stuff.
And he owns Geffen Records.
No, David Ruffin Jr. No. He don't.
No, I'm sorry. He's Motown.
His daddy was the lead singer of Motown. Yeah.
All right.
Junior, Junior's good. He don't sound like his daddy, and that was always people would be like, "You sound like your daddy," but he sounds even better. He was on that "I Can See Your Voice" last night. Other night, he turned it out too. I was proud of him. But he got with me, and he was playing that rap music all the time, and I had just quit the Dramatics to concentrate on putting time into him.
Sure.
Because it's just a younger. I knew it was time for something younger.
Right.
And he would play this Dr. Dre songs, and I would be like, please stop, stop, David. And so this young lady who had saw me with David had, when I had him in California on the last Dramatics tour, she said, why did you guys leave? You should be back out here. People like David, because I would have him sing for the Dramatics. Bring the Dramatics on and stuff, And she said, I would help you guys come back. And I knew I had a cousin that lived out there that I could go live with real easy, but I didn't know for David. She said, well, I'll help you. Y'all should come out here. And she turned out to be really good because she knew all the places those guys hung out. And the one day she talked me into going out because I was too busy down on my luck and wondering, like, I'm going to go crawling back like LJ said. I know I'm going to do that any day. She said, Tony, you got to come out too. You said you want to make a new life. When I went out, man, we met DOC, Warren G, and Snoop the night I went out.
Just going out to hang out.
Just going out to hang out. And then David, being that age group, he went out there, and then he's David Ruffin Jr. So now that helps because then they know all the old school shit, right? So then they come and they meet me and say, hey, you know, this. And I meet him, and I'm like, wow, man, you guys are jamming. That record is a monster. So DOC and Snoop went on back out dealing with the girls on the dance floor. And Warren G stuck around.
Is it L.A.?
Yeah, I'm in L.A. now, yeah, because we drove from Detroit to California. And on the way, I listened to that Dr. Dre album, 17 hours. I drove a 17-hour shift, right? I never took it out of the cassette.
Just let it run.
And now all of a sudden, I'm liking this music now. You know what I mean? I'm hearing beat downs. I'm hearing, cussing ladies out. And I come from the Dramatics. We were loving all the girls, and getting stepped on. These guys refused to be stepped on by, So it was a whole different vibe. So we got there, and then, when Warren talked to me for a minute, he said, man, you play bass? And I said, yeah, I just got to do with the Dramatics. I can play. He said, well, my brother need bass all the time. Now, Warren G is Dr. Dre's half-brother. And he gave us the telephone number. He said, call him, man. He need bass all the time. So I called him like for a whole week. No answer. And I was like, man.
Because you were listening to the album on the way out there. You knew what.
Yeah, now I'm liking it. I didn't know it yet. I hadn't put it in my bass and learned it.
It was big in California, L.A. As in huge at that time. He was huge. And that's why he wouldn't call,
Yeah, nothing but a G thing, baby. It was huge here at the same time. You know what I mean? It was just huge.
I was trying to think what era he was in when you made this content.
Yeah, well, he had just left Eazy-E, and then Suge Knight and them was supposed to beat up Eazy-E and took him out of his contract and all of that.